Before we go to the practice, you need to have a solid understanding about what constitutes the foundation of a good specification. So this is where context engineering comes into play. What is this context gap challenge? When you usually want to work in a project, you have 100% of the project context. You have the history, you know the business goal, you know the unspoken constraints. And when you start to use AI into your development process, it basically doesn't have any context about what you actually need to do. The AI agents are trained with this generic training data, so you need to be more specific to guide the AI to actually deliver what you need to be done. And without this bridge that you need to create with your AI agent, this is where most of the projects usually fail. Let's remember about the vibe coding problem that I stated to you at the beginning of this course. Sometimes you provide a lot of context, and this will cause what is known as context drift. Sometimes the AI will forget what you told to him because you have so many information in the context that it will need to start to shrink or compact. Those are terms well known in the market. So it can, to grab this big amount of information, turn into a very smaller version. So for every new prompt and every new action that you send to the AI agent, it will consider this previous context to actually implement what you need. And before we move on, what is context engineer at all? By definition, is the systematic process of structuring information to constrain the AI's creative space before implementation begins. This is very important because we always see in the market the prompt engineering term, and you need to understand that prompt engineer is not context engineer. Prompt engineer is, I write better instructions for only a single query or a conversation with an AI agent. And context engineering, it's building a persistent knowledge base that anytime that you interact with these AI agents, it will first look at this knowledge base and then inject the necessary context and will process your request. So this is where the things actually start to work as you expect. The goal of context engineering is create this boundary of truth that the AI cannot cross. This is very, very, very important. And the context engineer is crucial to the three pillars of the upstream context that we need to have successfully projects. In order to build those effective specifications, we need to state very clear who are we going to target, why we need to do it, and what are we going to do. So the who represents the user persona, the why represent the business value, and the what represent the functional scope. And very important here, on the upstream phase, we strictly ignore the how. In practice, we will not talk about anything about technology here. The architect agent will not come to play. You will heavily use the analyst and the product manager agents because they focus in the who, the why, and the what. And this is where the context engineer shines the most. The first pillar, the who. The main question here, who is the software for? Here we need to be really and very specific, because when we say that we want to target a user, this is very vague. But when we are specific, for example, a senior financial analyst who needs high contrast data visualization and hates scrolling. When the AI knows about this context, it will provide much more detailed answers that closely relates the pain points that the specific persona needs to be solved. And the impact this specificity has in your code, it will determine the UI density, the accessibility standards, the workflow complexity, and will guide the agent on the user experience decisions. So if you are really specific about the persona, when you summon the UX agent, for example, it will take into account all of these scenarios that he needs to think through so you can deliver a better user experience to that person. The second pillar, the why. Why are we building this? What problem are we need to solve? Most of the failed projects that I see in my career, it's because this why answer is not clearly defined. So we will create a solution that delivers no value at all. So this is what actually make the projects fail. So to answer these questions, we need to clearly state what are the success metrics. So for example, we need to reduce our customer support ticket by 20%, or we need to enable a checkout process in under 30 seconds. The impact on the code when stating these success metrics, and you can measure them by either acceptance criteria or non-functional requirements, this will guide our engineering trade-offs. So we focus more on performance, so we focus more on aesthetics, we focus more on providing this minimum viable product, and also helps the agent to prioritize features when any conflicts arise. So this is very important as well. And the third one, the what. What are we going to build? And most important, what are the hard boundaries that we need to clearly state as well? And why this is important? Because we need to know what are the features that must be present, like Google authentication, an CSV export, and most important, what is out of scope. Besides the failed projects that don't understand the why they are doing that, the other most common reason for failed projects is to deliver what is out of scope, which is known as scope creep in the industry. So this is where you give this negative constraint to either avoid delivering more that you need, and also do not over-engineer to solve a problem that is not happening right now. What we need to do to deliver code that will solve that specific pain point, and you can think through this in the long term. How can you incrementally deliver more value and achieve the business goal that you need right now? This is something very, very important. Let's give you a real world example. What is a bad context? When you ask an AI agent to build a to-do list app, probably the result will be a generic React tutorial suitable for no one. But when you provide much more engineering context with the usage of BMAD, the framework will guide you. The who, for busy freelance designers, for example. The why, to track billable hours per task to increase the revenue. The what, a Kanban board with an integrated timer with no social features. And the result is a tailored product ready for market. So within this knowledge, we are now ready to dive deep into what are we going to build in this course, so you can understand how to apply BMAD in practice. See you in the next lesson.